I love fairy stories. I've always loved fairy stories. The Russian fairy tale or folk tale tradition is extremely rich. There's a very interesting heritage, and in the 19th century, a fellow called Alexander Afanasyev collected many hundreds of them, and for his trouble he was almost sent to Siberia because a lot of these folk tales expressed disdain for the Tsar, and they expressed disdain for the clergy, the local village clergy, and both of those things got Afanasyev into trouble. But anyway, we can be very grateful that he took the trouble to collect all this stuff. Well, I chose 3 of my favourite tales to reflect on in the piano trio, and at first I thought, well, I'm not going to tell stories in this music, but I found actually that I have written program music. These, in a way that I've not done in any of my other pieces, I have more or less literally told the stories as they unfold in the 3 movements. One is about Vasilisa, who is a princess character in Russian folklore, and lots of things happen to Vasilisa in her adventures, usually not good, but she usually escapes because she's so good. And in mine, she is sent off by wicked stepmothers to the forest, and she encounters a Baba Yaga and she is saved, and it all ends very happily. In the second tale, the Snow Maiden, which is the story that inspired a number of Russian composers in opera and ballet. Very, very simple. An old couple who are childless, they yearn for a child of their own, and so ultimately they build one out of snow. And she delights them and she spends the winter with them. But in spring, she wants her own friends and she finds them, and they say, come out and play in front of the fire. And she melts, of course. The last one I think is my special favourite, which is about your ordinary soldier. He's not exactly a hero, he's not exactly bad, he's just your normal surviving peasant type. The soldier comes back from the war, back to his village, but there's nowhere to stay. He goes to the local inn and they say, no, all the rooms are full. So he says, well, what about that house up on the hill? And they say, oh, you don't want to stay up there, that's full of ghosts and goblins. So he goes up there because he can look after himself. To cut a long story short, he fools all the ghosts and goblins into getting into a big sack. And that's the end of them. And after that, the town is no longer plagued by these ghouls, and they live happily ever after. And in the march, I've actually had a little bit of fun because right in the middle of the march, the instrumental writing dissolves to percussive noises, and the pianist will close the lid of the piano and rap his knuckles. He'll rap the tune out with his knuckles on the lid of the piano while the cellist and the violinist are doing various percussive things with their instruments, and the Eggner trio boys are bringing along a couple of special instruments that I think the audience will quite enjoy when they hear them. I'll leave that as a surprise. The various versions of these stories can be darker or lighter depending on who the audience is. If it's for people around the campfire, it can get very dark indeed. If it's for children, it's lightened up a bit. And I have to say that in my trio, it's probably more childlike than anything else, because I like that